one of the biggest challenges in world motorsport. 154 corners winding through the Eiffel forests with a 12th century castle overlooking it to boot. Where else would you rather be than the Nürburgring? In July, in the rain, I think I'd rather be in game. Now that's a whole lot better. And before we have a look at more history of this incredible place, don't forget that in 2024, the Nürburgring 24 Hours will be part of the Intercontinental GT Challenge. Cannot wait for that. First conceived almost a century ago in 1925, and opened for racing 2 years later, the fearsome Nordschleife was designed to be Germany's answer to the great endurance racing events of the day, such as the Targa Florio and Le Mans, a place for German manufacturers to prove their worth. And across the years, some legendary names have played starring roles here, such as Bernd Rosemeyer, Wolfgang von Trips, Sterling Moss and Stefan Beloff, plus so many more. There's a lot of history out there in the woods, but there's always an opportunity on this modern Grand Prix circuit to make new milestones, whether it be here in the virtual or in the real world, including in the Fanatec GT Pro Series as it reaches its climax. Once again, 24 of the very best GT3 drivers in the world head to our Fanatec Arena to race on Assetto Corsa Competizione. And with just 2 rounds remaining, our 3 different championships are really hotting up. We missed last year being at the Nürburgring, so the last time we raced here was 2021, leaving us plenty of unpredictability. What we do know is this man, Alexei Nesov at Mad Panda Motorsport, is super fast. 2 wins this year, including last time out at Spa.
Is set to go racing. We go green. It is blast off. A good getaway by Nesov in the Mercedes. How brave is he going to be as they head towards Eau Rouge for the first time? He goes absolutely toe-to-toe with Heinrich. The Porsche comes out in front. Nesov runs wide over the curb, but as they power up Radion for the first time, it is Heinrich ahead. It's Porsche in the lead.
This time under pressure from Sandy Mitchell, who looks to the inside, and there's a slow Audi in between them as well. So Gazoo losing time, Nielsen to the outside and losing more position. Goes around the outside of the first part, inside of the second part, squeezes Zug nearly off the circuit, so Zug dives down the inside at Campos and gets that move done, but there'll be more momentum.
Gilles Magnus, he's going to be level with the Mercedes. He's got the inside line coming out of the chicane. The Mercedes just with its nose in front. They're going to be almost side by side to the timing line, but all the grunt of that Mercedes AMG keeps it ahead of the Audi R8 as they head towards La Source. Jordan Pepper making progress. Heinrich trying to get away. Nesov is in second place. Drama at Bruxelles. Sideways. Carl Scatter. The car of Gauquin after contact early on in the race, and that was all coming out of turn 9, and then more mayhem at the foot of the hills. That Callum Williams getting turned around. It was number 30 BMW. He has pitted, and Alberto Di Folco has pitted as well. Towards the chicane, we saw a lap ago how hard it can be to overtake here. Magnus positions the car absolutely right. Charlie Fag closes right up and having a go back at him. Look, is Marius Zug now. Which has got the better drive off the corner, McLaren or Mercedes? It's the McLaren that stays ahead. Keep on turning, keep on turning, keep on the power, and he's all sideways. No! He's heading for the wall. Big lose. Marius Zug goes all the way around. Gets back into the draft. Is he going to dive to the outside line? Yes. Just almost touches the back of the Audi. He wants the inside line. He goes for it. He gets squeezed. He's up the curb and he goes straight on. Both of them off the road. Ancient Guven, and there's contact. He tags the back of the Audi and half spins. And it is Cesar Gazzo that comes out ahead. At the end of lap 26, round 3 of Fanatec Esports GT Pro Series is won by a delighted Alexei Nesov. Laurin Heinrich crosses the line in second place.
Ahead of the 4th round of the year, things are incredibly tight in the championships. In the pro standings, Laurin Heinrich's class win at Spa has given Rutronic Racing a 3-point lead. Then we have a tie in both the silver and gold classes. Nesov's 2 wins puts Mad Panda on level points with Boots and VDS in silver, while Winwood Racing and Team WRT are inseparable in the Gold Cup. Charlie Fag mentioned it there, that these sim racing pros really are at a completely different level to what we see in the GT Pro Series. But so many more of the teams now have latched into that knowledge. The likes of Williams Esports with Mercedes, with K-Pax and Lamborghini, the Ferrari Esports team, and of course BS Competition, BMW and Rover Racing in this championship. And that is helping the drivers in the GT Pro be as fast as possible. So I thought I'd investigate that situation with Sandy Mitchell and Giovanni De Salvo, both from Lamborghini Esports and Real World.
Hi, I'm Sandy Mitchell, Lamborghini factory driver racing for K-Pax Racing.
I'm Giovanni De Salvo, professional sim driver and performance engineer for Lamborghini Esports team.
So I've got some questions to ask you linked to ACC and real life GT3 racing, so let's just get started. So with esports becoming such a big business now, how strange is it to give advice to real life racing drivers?
I mean, at the beginning is quite weird to communicate with a real driver on the sim world, but at the end of the day, it's a world that is really similar to the real world. So every indication that the real driver you give it to me is an expectation that I can know, and at the end of the day, we can communicate really well each other's and know what you want from the car, from the sim, and know what I can give it to you to improve your performance as well.
Yeah.
So it's a really nice communication between the two worlds.
Yeah. Did you find it strange to begin with? Like, feel like it was almost silly to be coaching the real life driver, or you thought it was not so bad?
No. It's weird because you are a real driver, you know what to do. So in my place, it's weird to give you advice in how to maybe do the corners, maybe do a different gear on that corner. But the sim obviously has a lot of similarities with the reality, but has also some differences. So it's normal to give to the real driver some little advice to adjust the driving style and exploit all the possibilities it can have from the sim.
Yeah, for sure.
And I have a question for you now. And how important is it to work with a top sim racing team? Has it made a difference in your performance?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been great to work with you guys at the Lamborghini Esports team because it's made a massive difference for me in terms of not only the setup of the car, but also in terms of driving style and getting some coaching from you guys and the other drivers, because like you say, although it's very similar in a lot of ways, there's still some differences, and maybe you could take some different curbs or some different lines to real life. Sometimes it can be a little bit different, and we can get quite in the habit of just doing what we do in real life. And then also in terms of the setup of the car, just like real life, it can make a massive difference with having a good setup in the sim. So in terms of all of that added together, it's made a massive difference, and to be able to then have some good qualifyings at the first couple of rounds was definitely down to working together.
Yeah.
All right, last one for you. So, what's the best piece of advice you would give to a real-life GT3 driver wanting to start in professional sim racing?
I would say to not expect to go fast soon, because otherwise you will just turn off the PC and never play the sim anymore.
Yeah.
It just has a curve to know and to adapt its driving style. You have also to relearn some things, because as I said before, there are a lot of differences from reality to sim. But once you have the feeling, you can take your real knowledge and put it on the sim and go really fast. I'm seeing that with you. You are just less than a second from the top sim drivers, and you put more or less training than them. So I'm sure that with the same training throughout a year or 2 years, you could be very, very, very close to the top sim driver, because at the end it's just a matter of train and train. But you know how to do it.
Yeah, nice.
And I have also a last question for you. So, what's the most important thing you've learned since working with a professional sim racing coach?
I think the main thing is just how much preparation goes into into the sim races. You know, I mean, I've had a little bit of esports experience before doing the SRO Fanatec series as well, in other platforms, but yeah, to see the amount of preparation that you guys do, I'm very lucky I can just come in for the last couple of days, use the setup that you guys have already prepared, and then do a bit of practice before coming out to the races. But yeah, you guys are really developing the setup from the ground up, putting in so much practice to find all these little areas in driving and in the car. And that's been the biggest thing I think I've learned in terms of if you want to go really, really fast on the sim, you have to put in a lot of hours. And yeah, you know, you can see guys putting in 40, 50 hours for one race. It's yeah, serious dedication, and yeah, the guys are so fast, so you can see why it works.
Gents, a fascinating insight. Thank you very much for chatting with us. I want to play a game with you now. We're going to play a game of ACC or GT3. I'm going to show you 4 photos up on the wall, and you two need to work out whether it's real or in-game. GT3 or ACC. Let's get photo number 1.
That's real life.
We're saying that is GT3, and you are correct.
Nice.
Sandy win. Sandy on 1 point. Next one.
That's sim.
Brands Hatch.
I think it's sim.
We're completely backwards. Sandy's got it right again. It is ACC. Look at the gravel.
Yeah,
Gives
you
it
can
away.
tell just where the curve goes into the gravel.
I'm terrible. I was watching only the curve.
Next one. Spa-Francorchamps.
Yeah, that's.
I think that's the sim.
That's definitely sim.
ACC.
Yeah.
It is ACC. So that is 3 points to Sandy, and we only have 1 point over here, which means Sandy has 1, but we've got 1 more anyway, and that is this one here.
I think it's real.
I will go with the real life.
Yeah.
And you are both correct. So we got there eventually, but Sandy gets 4 out of 4, and he is our winner of the first ever GT3 versus ACC. Thanks, guys.
Nice one, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome along to the Fanatec Arena. It is dry inside. It is not dry outside. It is dry in-game. It is not dry outside at all. But we are dry, and we are very excited to get our racing underway here at the Nürburgring. The first time we've been here for 2 years.
Yeah, it's fantastic to be back. It's a great facility, is the Nürburgring, and more importantly for tonight's activity, it's a racetrack where in a GT3 car, Ben, you really do have opportunities to overtake. The driver can make the difference at this circuit, can't they?
Yeah, it's quite a narrow circuit in comparison to the more modern racetracks that we have these days. It does provide us a big challenge, but it's fascinating to see, as we saw in that build-up, the way that these teams are now interacting with their sim racing partners. Even just now, as we finished driver's briefing, we had an empty studio about half an hour ago. The drivers come in, the sim racing teams are here to welcome them, to get them set up on the sim, make sure everything is set up and ready to go, and there's a real interaction between sim driver, they're racing tomorrow evening, make sure you're with us 5:30 local time, and our real drivers who are doing it today so they can focus on their real world activities across the weekend.
Yeah, and it's big business for these drivers because we've got the real world GT World Challenge powered by AWS drivers here doing the sim racing, but don't forget they're scoring points, potentially, for their real-life championship charge. And you can score 5 points for a victory, all the way down to a single point for 5th. So this is not just a marketing exercise. This is not just an exercise in sport. This is points for the real championship.
It is moolah as well. There is money involved, and big money. Money that goes towards the teams for development, or goes towards their Christmas budget and their Christmas party. Maybe some of the drivers even take that money home with them. Only very few. But there is big money to be won as well, thanks to our partners. And here is the grid then. And we have a really strong Lamborghini presence at the head of the field. We have, on the pole position then, Sandy Mitchell alongside him, BMW Callan Williams. We've got a BMW of Dan Harper in 3rd position with Jordan Pepper alongside. And then on row 3, it's Alex Acker and the first of the Porsches with Lauren Heinrich.
In 7th position, we've got Adam Ateke in 2nd place in the gold category. Alongside him is Hai-Chun Guven in the dynamic GT Hubert Racing Porsche. Charlie Fagg, another gold driver, starts in 9th place, and alongside him, Sheldon van der Linde for Team WRT. And then Nikolai Kiergaard in car number 159 is 11th, and 12th on the grid is Fabrizio Cristani in GRT Grasser Racing Team.
The only Ferrari represented, 13th position for Nicholas Nilsson, one of the only drivers to have done all of these races over the last couple of years. Cesar Gazou alongside, then Thomas Drouet and Alexei Nesov down in 16th for Mad Panda. He's got a lot of work to do today with Daniele Diamato and Marius Zug in 18th spot.
In 19th position, we've got a debutant in the world of sim racing and the world of GT3. Of course, it is Belgian driver Kobe Pauwels for ComTU Racing. He'll line up 19th place for his first race of the season. Christopher Mies alongside him, car number 25 for Santaloc Junior Team. In 21st position is car number 21, and that is Nicholas Bart for ComTU Racing. And another ComTU Racing car as well in 22nd, that is Sam de Jong in car number 12. Owen Bastard is 23rd on the grid, and last but by no means least, Jacob Riegel for Bullet Racing in the Aston Martin AMR GT3 will start this race in 24th position.
24 drivers then, a spread of different manufacturers across the field as well, but it does look as though the Lamborghinis and Ferraris are particularly, Lamborghinis and BMWs are particularly strong here.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a bit of a change to balance of performance. We'll get into that one as the race unfolds. There's been an update to ACC. There's been a balance of performance change for these cars as well. But you're absolutely right, Ben. Lamborghini on pole position, 2 BMWs, and then another Lamborghini in the top 4. But we've seen this, Ben, so many times. Qualifying is one thing. Getting into the racing action is quite another. Staying out of trouble is going to be key in these opening corners.
And if you've been across our social media, SRO Esports, you will have seen the track lap from Charlie Fagg that he did, describing that first turn as a great overtaking opportunity if you get the apex. But it is very tight, and it is very wide, and it does kind of encourage you to dive bomb. And it is a place over the years where there has been plenty of incident and accident, and therefore they will have to all be very, very careful on lap 1 at turn 1 to make sure they get through that cleanly, because as soon as you have a bit of damage on the car, you carry that through the rest of the race.
Yeah, and this is only a 60-minute race as well, so as you say, any damage that you carry, any sort of pace deficit that you've got, that's going to cost you all the way through the race. There is a mandatory pit stop. You've got to put a litre of fuel in the car, but you really don't want to be affected any kind of repairs in that scenario. So let's stay clean. Let's race hard. This is the penultimate round of the season. We're at the business end of the championship.
It is the penultimate round of the championship. Only Barcelona to come for our Endurance Cup on site, and therefore our Sim Racing GT Pro Series. We do have the possibility of wrapping up our our Pro Championship this weekend, today. The other two, the silver and the gold, are still up for grabs with those equal points between the separate teams. However, I'm not sure it's going to happen.
Well, we've got a few permutations. So in Pro category, the number 96 car, the Retronic vehicle driven by Lauren Heinrich, if he wins and the number 32 WRT car finishes 3rd or lower, the title will go to Retronic. In gold, if the 157 and 30 outscore the 21 ComTU by 4 points, the ComTU car's out of the classification. And in silver, if the 90 Mad Panda of Alexei Nesov and the number 10 Bootson VDS of Gazoo finish 4 points in front of the Tresor Tempto 99 car, and the 99 is out of contention. Remember that one if you can when we get going.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I'm relying on you and your maths for the next hour. They're going through the faster of our chicanes here at the Nürburgring. The SRO Endurance Cup chooses the faster sweepers, which usually lead you on to the Nordschleife turning left there. And when Formula 1 came here in the past, it used the Michael Schumacher very tight S-bends, but we go for the slightly faster one, which actually is a much bigger challenge for these guys because it is narrow there and you're leading into a braking zone at the end of the lap. Green flag flies and we go racing here at Nürburgring for round 4. Sandy Mitchell has the lead of the race in towards turn 1. A little bit of contact for 3rd position as Dan Harper on the inside gets spun around by an out of control Audi is that. And Harper's going to be really compromised. We've got another spinner in the middle of the pack. That's going to leave the Lamborghinis 1-2 at the head of the field, with Lauren Heinrich up to 3rd, Hai-Chun Guven 4th, Oh, and all three BMWs at the back of the pack.
Yeah, this is exactly what we didn't want to see happen in this scenario. Stay clean, more contact. Alex Acker is the one facing the wrong direction, already carrying damage on the 99 from that lap 1 contact. Secondary impact further around the lap, so it's all falling apart for the 99. Just as we said, they need to do a good result in silver to stay in championship contention.
Alex Acker, our champion from last year in the Treasure Attempto Racing squad. He's got so much experience racing in this Fanatec Arena on ACC, but it's the unpredictability of that first turn 1. I think it was Alex who lost the rear end of his Audi braking into the downhill right-hander. More contract further back, and who has got spun around there?
Ooh.
Crestani facing the wrong direction in the middle of the pack there, and I think Diamato part of it too.
Yeah, I think Diamato as well got a bit of contact coming back onto the track, did the Porsche, so the stewards will be looking at that one. And this is not ideal, to say the least, for many of the drivers down the back of the pack, but the upshot is Sandy Mitchell from Jordan Pepper from Lauren Heinrich are in our top 3 positions. That's exactly what they needed as Heinrich, Ben.
Here is Heinrich down the inside of Jordan Pepper. This is for second position. A little bit of kissing and contact, but Heinrich makes it through. It's fast through the S-bends for the first time, collects the cones straight away, spits them into the windscreen of Jordan Pepper, and for the moment holds on to that second position for Rutronic Racing. Heinrich, a works Porsche driver, but pretty much also a works sim racing driver with so much experience in the virtual world, alongside his teammate Chan Guven, who is in 4th position. Here is Nicholas Nielsen with lots of experience across 3 years, the only Ferrari in the pack. And I think a bit of defensive work going on into turn 1.
Yeah, a little bit of damage I think we saw on the car, of the 51 car of Nick Nielsen. So started 13th up to 11th position, but he wasn't immune to some of the argy-bargy that we saw through the Mercedes Arena and the remainder, it has to be said, of the opening lap. So he'll be checking the car out, just seeing where he stands in the competitive running order. But what he needs is the battle that we're seeing around him now. Christopher Mies in the middle of a challenge as well, so Mies makes the way past. The more squabbling you've got around you, Ben, the more chance that you've got to break free. And the way these guys are driving at the moment, you want to stay as far away from other cars as possible.
Yeah, so that was Mies getting past Bart, and then Dan Harper followed through. So Nicolas Bart finding himself in the heady heights of almost the top 10, which is not necessarily where his pace is reflective of. And so quick work from Christopher Mies and Dan Harper as they make their way past. Those BMWs, remember, starting at the head of the field, Harper and Callum Williams. Williams was a real big loser of lap 1, 23rd position, but more importantly perhaps 4 seconds off the back of the pack of Owen Bastard. He's now 2.7 seconds back, so they are making their way forward, but of course with that damage that you mentioned.
Yeah, good recovery so far, this from Dan Harper, up into 12th position. We saw him make the overtake there for 12th and 13th place, so not too much damage, it doesn't look, on the BMW Junior Team number 998 car. You can see plenty of damage on screen, but again, this affects the way the car, the balance is, the way the handling is, the understeer, the ultimate top speed of the car as well. You can overdrive, you can drive around these problems, Ben, if you're confident enough in yourself and your setup of your car. It's not the end of your race, as long as it's all pointing in the right direction.
A replay of the start of the race then. Let's see what happened to Alex Acker. Was there any contact from row 3 on the inside? The Audi tucking into the slipstream of the BMW, then comes across. Lauren Heinrich's on his outside there. And he's almost, he's trying to go down into a hole that doesn't exist. He is helped around by the Boutsen VDS Audi behind him. And then he careers into Callum Williams that spun around the WRT machine. So was that Thomas, who is in the Boutsen VDS? Adam Ateki it was, who got into the tail of it.
I feel real sorry for Callum Williams there. Absolutely nothing wrong with his positioning of the car, keeping it nice and safe, not attacking race leader Sandy Mitchell, and harpooned off to the side of the circuit. We saw him a little bit slow as well to get away, so obviously the car may have stalled or is in a high gear trying to get it back down through the box. So that's more time given away, and that's why Callum is now in 23rd and just on the back of Owen Bastard. But as we said, Ben, this is a 60-minute race. That's not a lot of time when these drivers are so closely matched to climb back through the running order. So I fear for Callum Williams that this is going to be a hard day ahead.
Let's not forget, though, that we have 3 races in one here. We've got 23 drivers still on circuit, and you score points in your class rather than overall. We'll have an overall podium, but that's basically to avoid having 3 podiums and stretch out the evening even longer. but we score points in Pro, Gold and Silver, and therefore there are points for 15 cars of the 23 that are on the grid. And for the likes of Callum Williams, who is down there in 22nd position, he is actually also 5th in gold, so he's still scoring a point, and that is actually more crucial than where he is in the overall leaderboard. He's got a lot of work to do to catch up to Nicolas Bart, but Callum Williams, even though he's last, is scoring points.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately for Callum, when you're in the heat of the battle further down there as well, you've got more cars that potentially are slightly slower than you. You've got to work your way through, so he needs to pick his battles very wisely. As we're looking at Sheldon van der Linden now for the run down into T1. He's got a good slipstream over Nicolas Bart. Nicolas Bart in the Audi leaves the door wide open. Van der Linden late on the brakes. Will he get the car stopped onto the apex? Yes, he will. Thank you very much. The WRT machine makes an easy pass, and I think Nicolas Bart there was generous in the space that he left.
Well, Nicolas Bart in Spa, if you remember, inherited great amount of points simply by finishing the race and staying out of trouble. And Come To You Racing have made it very clear that they really are a big fan of this. They've got, is it 3 or 4 entries? 3 entries into this race. But they know that they don't put the work in and they don't have the relationships that some of the other teams do. Alexei Nesov being muscled wide by Cesar Gazou behind him. This is for 8th position. Gazou in the slipstream, hiding behind that big rear wing of the Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. Can't find a way through at the bottom of the hill though, and will live to fight another day. But Gazou has got Marius Zug behind him as well. So it's one of those attack but also defend.
Yeah, of course they're racing in different classes, but they're still looking for the overall race position as well. We've seen that classes almost mean very little to these drivers when they get into a race bed. If there's a car, we shall pass. And Alexei Nesov at the moment is the cork in this particular bottle of the Mad Panda number 90 Mercedes. That car looks a little bit unstable at this stage. It's squirrely on the acceleration. He looks a little bit uncomfortable, maybe carrying some damage from those early incidents.
Let's not forget also that Alexei Nesov was our overall winner, and he's won 2 races overall across the season. And the Mercedes has been a car to have in the early part of the year, but the balance of performance has seemingly slightly taken away the edge from the Mercedes.
Yeah, with the talk of the town here at the Fanatec Arena is the Mercedes is not quite the competitive proposition that we've perhaps seen in previous races. It very much is thought to be a Ferrari and a Lamborghini benefit here at the Nürburgring, although the Ferrari of Nick Nielsen still down in 11th position with that damage. Maybe not quite coming good, but we have got a Lamborghini 1-3, which is good to see.
And also, the problem is for Nesov, he carries that success ballast from the previous win, so he's got an extra 30 kilos in that car, as well as having the bot slightly compromise him. So a big job and a big lot of work to do, but still leads his particular class. Cesar Gazou 3.5 tenths behind, not making it easy for him. Also, that is a position in class. There's Aichan Guven in your inset on the right hand side, all looking very chilled. 4th position, staring at the back of Jordan Pepper, and they have been dropped by the front 2. Mitchell and Heinrich 3 seconds to the good over these 2.
Yeah, these need to start thinking about working together a little bit. If you've got Lauren Heinrich defending heavily, Jordan Pepper at the head of the pack starting to defend from the Porsche, they're going to lose time. The more time they lose, the further they will drop away from the cars in front. So this is an important go time for these drivers now. Make your decision. Do you sit back and work together and push for the benefit of all, or do you look to take the position away for yourself? Aichan Guven currently a little bit too far away to be able to close up and make a tap pass, as we're looking now at Daniele Di Marto in 20th place on the charge.
On the back of the McLaren, 2 McLarens in the race. We've seen Nicolas Kiergaard get better and better in the Fanatec Arena. When he first started, he was one of those drivers that literally did 2 corners and then bailed out. Does have damage to the Garage 59 McLaren. And Charlie Fagg, though, in the Optimum Motorsport McLaren, showing that the McLaren can be a good car to have. Diamato looks to the inside, but there's not that big braking zone that you get from the tight chicane at the end of the lap, and therefore thinks better of it for the moment.
Yeah, it's so easy to be greedy on the curbs at that final chicane. If you catch the sausage on the inside, that will launch the car. That's going to unsettle it coming off corner exit, and you will be heading straight to the barrier. So good driving from D'Amato. Had a look, thought about it, recognised there wasn't a gap, dropped back in position. Smart driving.
One of the great things about the Fanatec Arena, about sim racing in general, is we get to see the facial expressions of our drivers. Whilst they're doing what they would do in the real world, but we can see the frustration, we can see the concentration, we can see the total lack of blinking from Daniele Diamato on the inset on the right-hand side. The Fanatec Arena is absolutely rammed full. It's fantastic to have a capacity crowd once again this evening. It is nothing to do with the fact it is hailing and raining and thunderstorming outside. It is all to do with the great action that we've got on circuit. Amateki, 6th position here, the lead, the leading two here in their particular category, which is gold. Charlie Fagg leading gold, Adam Ateki in 2nd. No penalties at the moment, by the way, from race control, but we have realised over this year that they do live in a different time zone to us, and they're about half a race behind usually.
Yeah, there's been plenty of drama in the opening laps. There's plenty for our race control to look through and try and assess over the course of these next few minutes. By the way, good driving from Fag and Ateki in 5th and 6th position, the leaders of their gold category, right up there at the front of the field now as Dan Harper goes on the attack.
Harper makes that one very easy, almost Nicholas Nielsen saying, just please come past, I'm not going to fight you here. And obviously Nielsen feeling that car has nowhere near the pace that you would expect, but it does look damaged to me.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Ben. That's the damage that's coming to show now on that Ferrari. Just slow in a straight line, just lazy in every single move as we're looking again at this battle with Ateki and Charlie Fagg. Where do you go in these scenarios, though? Both drivers are very, very similar on pace. Both cars are looking relatively clean in comparison to the other 22 on this grid. You don't want to squabble too hard because you're on for a good result overall, and we've still got the mandatory pit window to come.
I don't know if this is still called the Mercedes Arena, but it was originally built as the Mercedes Arena. That section of turns, basically, even though they're going left and right, they become one corner really, and it makes it very hard to overtake, although there are a lot of different lines available to you. You're constantly crossing each other, and so there isn't that big opportunity to get down the inside unless you're very, very aggressive. And of course, in these early parts of the race, Charlie Fagg, with 45 minutes still to go to get past the leader in his class, doesn't need to progress any further, isn't concerned about the lack of time lost to the front four, because this is the focus, the win in class. Fagg has lost the lead to Ateki in the last lap or two, but sticking with him now, and let's see what happens at pit stops. Time we've seen lost and gained in the pit stops, 2 or 3 seconds if you don't quite get it nailed.
Yeah, and we've seen that so many times. There are so many strategies that you can employ during the pit window, and almost every single race, either here at the Fanatec Arena or in the many online races in the world of SRO Esports, the pit window is where we see a massive shift in the running order. So no doubt the likes of Charlie Fagg and Adam Ateki will be thinking about that one. There's a bit of contact, Ben, just behind Thomas Drouet.
Nesov and Gazoo fighting over the leading class, side by side. Oh no, indeed, not the place to go side by side when it is that fast. That's going to compromise the pace of both of them. Here around the outside becomes Marius Zug. It's going to be very hard to go all the way around the outside, and surely Nesov will give him the squeeze, but Gazoo is ahead, and that is a change in class. Nesov dropping a position to Gazoo. Here comes Marius Zug down the inside for 9th position. Not quite late enough on the brakes. Oh, it's actually the Mad Panda that's late on the brakes. And Nesov defending successfully by being a bit too late.
Yeah, that was very intense. I have to say, oh no, out loud coming to the chicane, because you do not want to go into there side by side. A little bit of contact further back from Nesov as well. That's Harper joining in with Marius Zug. Nicholas Nielsen decides, I'll have a piece of this one as well in the hobbled Ferrari, but Nielsen pushed out wide, has to drop back in line again, and Dan Harper just about survives that one in the midst of all this fighting as well.
Marius Zug on the flashes. I know that has a bit of an effect in the real world, but in the sim racing world, absolutely nada. We've got a drive-through penalty for Adam Ateki, and presumably that is going to be for the first lap incident that we saw. Incident between car 9 and 99 on lap 1. Drive-through penalty for causing a collision to number 9. So that is Alex Acker and Adam Ateki going into corner 1. We identified it. Quite a harsh penalty drive-through, but either way, that takes Adam Ateki well out of the fight for the lead in Class Gold.
Yeah, this is Alex Acker that we're looking at in 18th position at this moment in time. Debutant Kobe Powell's just ahead of us. Nicola Bart as well, leading this particular battle. Acker will be furious at that one. He'll have had designs on moving up in the opening few corners, trying to solidify his race result. 18th position's not far away from where he qualified, but look at the damage on that Audi, and that's going to hurt all the way through this race.
Down the inside, Nicholas Nilsson loses another position. This time it's to Sheldon van der Linde. Nicholas Nilsson just holding on, and unfortunately there are so many cars in the pro category that it's not a case of simply finishing to get points in this category. You do need to fight in the pro category. They're categorized, by the way, from their real world status, not from how good or bad they are in the sim world. Here comes Kobe Powles, and he's got a little bit of a run on Nicolas Bart. Now this is an interesting one because Nicolas Bart is effectively Come To You Racing team owner. And Kobe Powles is a debutant into that team, and he goes down the inside, opens the door also to Alex Acker, who slips up the inside, and Bart loses 2 positions. It's not actually Bart's team, it's Bart's dad's team, but you know where I'm going. Kobe Powles, this is the first weekend he's ever done GT3 racing. He's been, as you know, in the front-wheel drive Touring Car Championship. Before that, a rallycross driver. He's been given this opportunity to come and do GT3 racing this weekend, and moreover, has never driven a GT3 car before today. All of his practice has been in ATC.
Nor has he ever driven the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit. So literally everything in front of him is very new, but I know Kobe very well indeed, and he adapts instantaneously to any scenario put to him, once again doing a sterling job. And I think Nicolas Bart there got off the gas a little bit to give the line to Bart into the braking zone, but that cost him a further position to Alex Acker. Nicolas Bart staying very much out of trouble as Marius Zug now in the heat of things, as there is a Nicholas Nielsen looking a little bit spicier.
Oh no, he tries to go around the outside, he drifts around the outside, but unfortunately does lose the momentum to Cesar Gazoo. Gazoo and Nesov dropping into this pack actually. So I wonder if there's been fisticuffs between the two of them, because they were certainly higher up, and just look at how strong those 2 BMWs from being at the very tail of the field early doors. They're 8th and 9th position. That's why these two have been demoted. And I think the physicality of that Silver Cup action between Gazoo and Nesov has compromised their speed, and now they're fighting with Nicholas Nilsson outside the top 10.
Yep, 5-second time penalty to Fabrizio Cristani for causing contact in the early stages of the race, so that'll be applied, of course, at the next pit stop, which is due to happen anytime in the next 10-15 minutes, as we've seen now from the onboard shot. Really good, the RF camera looking over the shoulder of the driver as Nielsen fighting, I'm afraid, Ben, what feels like something of an inevitable overtake.
Well, maybe, maybe not. This is Alexei Nesov in the Mercedes. We know that he was definitely further up the field than he is now, so maybe he is also carrying a little bit of damage. It's great to see this shot because it gets you into the cockpit. The virtual cockpit we see have a lot of information blanked out, but that shows you exactly what traction control setting he's got, what ABS setting he's got. When he's relying upon it, it flashes, so it shows you when he's asking something of those systems. And it was all turned down quite low, certainly lower than I'd ever have it.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's the thing as well. Drivers trust themselves far more than the electronic-enabled things within their car, both in real and virtual. You know you're the best. Your right foot is the best traction control possible, and within reason you want to put the power in your own hands so you can maximise the rotation of the car, you can get on the gas and you can bring the pace and the speed into the car. If you've got the traction control turned too high, then that's going to bog you down on corner exit. That's going to really make it difficult to rotate the car on the throttle. So a lot of these top level performing drivers will have everything set as low as possible, then wind it up as the race unfolds, the tyres start to wear.
Interesting to see the characteristic there of Charlie Fagg. We've just switched away from that battle, but he was backing out of fighting Adam Ateki. He knows that Ateki's got a drive-through penalty, and he's not going to waste time fighting and compromising himself. He'll wait for Ateki to take that, and surely Ateki, needs to take it this lap, because he goes into the pits to do so, to clear that drive-through. If he hadn't done that, he would have been thrown out of the race, as we've seen from previous rounds.
Yeah, we see a little squabble coming through the chicane again. Daniele D'Amato trying to get involved in the Porsche, but running out of real estate, as you would expect, through the very fast and particularly narrow chicane that comes in towards the end of this lap. So he drops back 4th in this 5-car battle in the top, the lower reaches of the top 20. They'll all move at 1, of course, because Ateki is in pit lane serving that time penalty, that drive-through penalty, sorry. And there we are, 19th position, as we see now a drive through the car number 99, unsafe rejoin. That's Alex Acker, and I mentioned that in the live, came back on contact with one of the drivers.
That is from lap 1. We are on lap 10. As I was saying, the race control live in a different time universe. Around the outside for Callum Williams, and he gets clear of Nicolas Bart. Now that is for position and 4 points. So Bart should have slightly fought that a bit harder potentially, although you wouldn't expect a car to be able to go all the way around the outside of you. BMW is very, very strong today. We saw it in qualifying. They were hampered on lap 1, but they are making their rise now, and Williams picks up 2 points now for that position.
Yeah, a bit of red mist, I think, for the WRT driver, Callum Williams. Qualified in second position, shunted down the order through no fault of his own, and now it is recovery time. He can't afford to give away even a tenth of a second in a battle. He has to see gap, go for it, as Sheldon van der Linde does exactly the same thing on Dan Harper as well. Moves himself up into 7th position. Harper left the door wide open, Ben, but now he's trying to get it back immediately.
It's almost NASCAR-style bump drafting down towards the final part of the lap. 2 teammates here, managed, of course, and run effectively by BS Competition in the sim racing world. Those guys will be doing battle tomorrow, and they'll like what they can see from the performance of the BMW that they have extracted out of their 2 drivers. Sheldon van der Linde has done so much sim racing in the past, as has Dan Harper. That 998 car, they do share this role because, of course, it's points for the team, not points for the individual driver. We talk so much about the drivers, but actually it's the 998 car that gets the points, and Neil Verhagen has won in that particular car early part of the year. Max Hasser is the other driver that scores points in that car, and Dan Harper, the 3rd driver. And the philosophy in that BMW Bank car is to get all 3 drivers rotated throughout the season, unlike other teams that rely purely on 1 driver.
Yeah, and that's an interesting way of doing it as well. Depends on the championship position, depends on the track, the strength and the confidence at any given time of the driver. One man who is confident, though, is Callum Williams. Once again, throws the car to the inside. Once again, gets the overtake done with the minimal of fuss. He's now in 16th position. Sam de Jong is the man that he dispossessed for that place. So he's on a charge as Callum Williams. Big question is, with the pit window coming, what's he going to do about strategy? Continue or come in early, try and find some clean air?
What are we going to see here? Replay of Nicholas Nielsen just tagging the back of the Boutsen VDS machine. Nice recovery though. Full 360 recovery and back underway. Now was that Cesar Gazou?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yes, the number 10 car. Actually, great recovery, Ben, because that's so difficult in sim to really know what direction you're facing and get the car back on the straight and narrow really quickly. So minimal time loss for Cesar Gazou, and credit where credit's due. That was a nice bit of driving.
Race control are busy now. Look at the drive-through penalties and 5-second penalties. Zug with a 5-second, Nessov with a 5-second. 15 for de Jong, 5 for Crestani, and that drive-through penalty for Alex Acker, all from lap 1 still. I'm sure there's more to investigate, especially with Nessov and Gazou in the latter halves of the races. Bouncing over the curbs, and Nielsen loses the position to Nessov. So Nessov back into the top 10, and that puts a car between himself and Gazou for their class lead. That's crucial.
It really is. That's taking a long while for Alexei Nessov to find a way past that Ferrari, but Nicholas Nielsen not done yet, it doesn't seem. Looks to the outside for the braking down into T1. You don't want to be side by side through this corner. What you need to do is concentrate on the exit, concentrate on your way through T2. He'll keep a nice tight line. Well, Nielsen, let's see if there's any understeer in that Ferrari. Doesn't look like it at this moment in time. He just doesn't have the pace as Daniele Di Marto finds his way past another car. So Di Marto up into 18th position, just found a way past Alametki in 19th.
And we've only got a minute before the pit lane window opens. So if you're in a battle like this, if you're Di Marto in a sandwich, you want to get out of that sandwich, get yourself some clear air, and potentially then have a better pace so that you can jump the bread of the sandwich, if you like, when everybody else has done their pit stop. So this is where the teams also will be looking and watching and be on Discord and in the drivers' ears. They'll be working out where they will come out at the end of the pit stop and what is a good strategy to do. Do you carry on? Are you happy with your pace and therefore you pit later on once everyone else has done their pit stops? Or do you try and get yourself out of traffic and select a different part of the racetrack to be on?
Yeah, and of course, during the pit stop as well, you don't make changes to the car. You can, if you so wish, but the requirement is 1 litre of fuel. You would not go out there and repair the car, change the tyres, or any of that kind of thing, because the time loss is too great. So it is all about track position, as Daniele Di Marto now under massive pressure from Ecke behind. But I think the Porsche's got him covered. For Di Marto, he needs to find a way past Nicola Barton. Bart needs to be very careful now, because this is an accident waiting to happen.
No need to defend. Adam Ateki, though, is the one that's obviously a lot faster than the two guys ahead of him, having taken that penalty. A little nudge. Oh, that is really unnecessary and unfortunately over the gravel for Nicolas Barr. I think cars diving into the pits behind, though. Yes, they are. So actually, Diamato finds himself with clear air around him because everybody else is either deposed of into the gravel or they've gone into the pits.
And that's perfect for Diamato. He can use the natural pace of the Porsche now. Try and push, try and gap. It's called an undercut. So try and push as hard as possible. Use that gap, use that space. And then when all the pit stops wash out, that's the opportunity to have performed the undercut. We're looking at Guven now, car number 54 in 4th position. He's staying very firmly in contention with Jordan Pepper, Ben, the 3rd and 4th place. So Guven showing good pace at this stage in the race and very much in contention for the overall podium.
The real story here, though, is obviously Lauren Heinrich leading the championship coming into today, 9 points over 6 with only 2 rounds left. He could get himself clear of Sheldon van der Linde with 6, and then we've got the Lamborghini of Jordan Pepper and the 998 BMW of Dan Harper with 5 points. If he can get himself enough points over those drivers, he could win that standings, the Pro Class today.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, isn't it? Lauren Heinrich is coming into this one as a championship leader for Retronic Racing. We said at the start of the show, if he wins and WRT finish 3rd or lower, that's the championship. Heinrich is still in with a shot of the win, and the WRT car has a 5-second penalty against its name. This is looking like it's going to be a championship deciding day today, Ben.
Pit lane window open for just 7.5 minutes. Sandy Mitchell, clear track around him, 4 seconds to the good over Lauren Heinrich. Now the other thing, the other story that develops through these 1 hour races is tyre management. It is something that comes into the equation at the end of the race, and we only really get to see how much they have used in the last 10-15 minutes. But if Sandy Mitchell has created that gap in the early part of the race, how much has he asked of his Pirelli tyres to do that?
Yeah, that's a big question actually. We've seen it many times before that cars begin to fade, certain cars get stronger in the final portion of this race. A lot of cars are carrying damage as well. That's going to impact the usage of the tyres for many of these drivers in the lower reaches of the top 10 and beyond. For the likes of Sandy Mitchell, no problem. The opening corners were nice and clean. But Lauren Heinrich, 4 seconds behind now, with still the pit stops to serve. You've got to go and do something different, surely, if you want to get in contention with Sandy Mitchell. You aren't going to make 4 seconds on track.
This is the battle for the last point in Pro. Thomas Drouet holds that position right now, 6th overall, but he's got 2 BMWs behind him. Sheldon van der Linde with a 5-second penalty, and Dan Harper also with a 5-second penalty. So they'll take that and make their pit stops 5 seconds longer. They'll drop off the tail of Drouet, and then they'll have the second half of the race to catch back up. We're coming towards the end of the lap, and to decide whether this is the lap to pit. For me, Drouet with a big slide. That's going to compromise van der Linde. He's going to have to get out the throttle to avoid contact with Drouet. And again, this run down through the kink at the bottom of the hill. And then you've got a really fast left-right flick. You really don't want to be trying to run side by side here. And sensibly, Sheldon backs out of it.
Yeah, good driving Sheldon van der Linde. Decides to exit completely and go and serve his mandatory stop as well. That's a wise move. Do not get delayed. Fighting with Thomas Drouet, fighting with Dan Harper behind, and Harper now has a little bit of clean air. Let's see how fast the BMW junior team driver can close to the back of Thomas Drouet's car. Does that BMW have the natural pace? Damage aside, and will Dan Harper make a bid for that 6th position or save it for the stops? Thomas Drouet again is the man under pressure, again is the man holding cars behind.
This is a circuit that Dan Harper knows incredibly well. All the BMW junior team drivers literally live in the BMW dealership in Nürburgring, or certainly used to. And in COVID times, the downstairs, which was effectively the showroom, would be where they had their sim rigs, and they will do their online racing from there. So it is not like they're staying in a hotel. It's not like they're in a different environment. This weekend is very much home, even though Dan Harper obviously is not German, has the Nürburgring very close to his heart. And unfortunately, by not pitting on that lap and following Sheldon through, he's quickly caught up to the back of Thomas Drouet and will find his lap time slightly slower on this lap. That could then compromise him in the battle between the Harper and Sheldon van der Linde once the pit stop cycles through.
Yeah, this is going to massively hurt Dan Harper, it has to be said. We've seen him looking all over the bike off the Mercedes in front, running a little bit deep as well, trying to find some clean air. This is hemorrhaging lap time. Sheldon van der Linde, if he's managed to get out of pit lane with some clean air in front, which it looks like he has from the live timing, he should easily undercut these two drivers. And when they make their stop, Sheldon van der Linde will have a significant, I think it's fair to say, advantage, assuming there's enough pace in the number 32. Let's watch Ben now as we come to the chicane. Will either of these drivers elect to make their stop now? They've only got 4 minutes in which to do it.
Interesting to see how many drivers haven't pitted, actually. Oh, and in goes Thomas Drouet. Good decision there from Dan Harper. I wonder whether he was going to dive into the pits, but Drouet goes into the pits, opens the door for Harper to put in a fast lap. Remember, Drouet doesn't have that 5-second penalty, so in theory should still come out ahead of Harper and Sheldon van der Linde once all the pit stops have cycled through. But has Sheldon van der Linde been that fast on this out lap? Here's Nicholas Nielsen. He has done his pit stop. He's sitting behind is now side by side from another of the Come To You Racing Audis, or is that, no, it's Owen Bastar, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, good pass, easy pass for Nick Nielsen there. Bastar recognises that the Ferrari is faster at this stage, gives him the racing room. So Nielsen still on the recovery drive from the early contact, but he's made his stop. So there are cars in front of him he will expect to pass once they do their mandatory stop. For you folks watching at home and the folks in the arena as well, to see the difference between who stopped and who hasn't. On the timing tower to the left-hand side, yellow square with a 1 in it, that means 1 mandatory stop left to serve. Green square means you've done the mandatory requirement and you're on your merry way to the flag.
Looks pretty chill, doesn't he? Scratching his chin. Not something you can do in the real world as he came down the start-finish straight and looked almost caught out by the fact that the braking zone was coming in to periphery vision. 7 seconds off the back of Sheldon van der Linde as it stands right now. Now, Dan Harper stays out, but Drouet, according to the timing screens, is actually behind Sheldon van der Linde. Here is Thomas Drouet, there is Sheldon van der Linde. So van der Linde found 5 seconds over those 2 laps.
Yeah, and van der Linde looked the quicker of the cars in that trio fighting for position, so that's exactly what the undercut is. Get in early, serve your stop, get out in clean air, push while the other drivers are squabbling, and then net overtake once everybody's made their stop. So intelligent driving from Sheldon van der Linde. Thomas Drouet, though, now his next challenge is going to be where he comes out in relation to the other cars around him when they've served their stop. And I'm not confident he's got the pace to keep that position.
Jordan Pepper and Archane Guven leaving it very late to do their pit stops. We've only got 1 minute and 50 seconds remaining and they still have not come into the pits. Most of the other drivers that are going past the start-finishing line right now are making their mandatory pit stops. You can see the P alongside their names. Some of them, Lauren Heinrich, our leader, out of the pits now. But here is Sandy Mitchell with a yellow marker alongside his name. He has not pitted yet, and he needs to get around this racetrack and get to pit in before the time elapses. Otherwise, and we've seen it before, penalties do come.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit tight for the likes of Sandy Mitchell and Jordan Pepper. They should be able to get this done, though. 1 minute and 11 seconds left on the clock. We're coming up to the chicane towards the end of the lap, so they've got enough time, but it will have to be on this lap. And this is a big thing. Remember, Heinrich is fighting for the championship as Marius Zug and Nicholas Nielsen in close competition with each other in 10th, 11th and 12th positions. Alexei Nesov at the back of this battle pack as well, trying to find a way in the Mad Panda even, Motorsport Mercedes. Very difficult to find a Mercedes-shaped hole when 2 cars are squabbling tooth and nail in head, isn't it?
Crucially though, Nesov ahead of Gazoo again, so that has rotated in the way of Nesov being back in the lead of that class. Into the pits then, Sandy Mitchell with 25 seconds still on the clock, so he's good. More concerned about Charlie Fagg, to be honest, in 5th position, or maybe even Dan Harper. Very, very late they will be to get into the pits. Have they left it too late? I'd be surprised if BS Competition would make such an error, but Dan Harper would be the last person to go into the pits, and I'm waiting to see if that P appears. We've only got 4, 3, 2, 1 second remaining. There's Charlie Fagg, and Fagg has missed it, and I think Dan Harper's missed it too.
And that is a fundamental mistake to make, and there's no coming back from that one, Ben. He's decided not to go down pit lane, so not working well for Charlie Fagg at all. He will get a post-race disqualification, or at the very least a significant penalty for not serving that mandatory stop, as will Dan Harper in 6th position, plus the 5-second time penalty against his name as well. Stewards will take a very dim view of that one indeed. So Charlie Fagg in 4th position, but we can discount 4th and 5th, I think, from the overall running order come the checkered flag.
We've seen this before though, haven't we, where the pit stops have been completed but the game does not recognise them, and we're seeing it more and more often that this happens. With WRT and BMW 2 races ago, I think it was, in terms of the track position, Dan Harper 6 seconds ahead of Sheldon van der Linde. Oh no, Nicholas Nielsen gets turned around over the front of Alexei Nesov, and Nesov didn't need that. Nesov's dropped behind Cesar Gazou again, so that's changed in the last lap again. Race control, not race control, but live timing perhaps a little bit on the delay. Into Nielsen on the last lap, a 2:30 on the last lap. Maybe it was just because he was coming out the pits. It was all kind of sorting itself out, but Fagg is now listed as 3rd position, so that's definitely not correct. But showed no interest in going into the pits as he came past the pit lane. Here is Charlie Fagg coming into the pits. Right, okay. So now we need to see whether the car goes up on its jacks. And I think we might be in a similar situation to where we were two races ago.
Yeah, and that's so frustrating for a driver.
Race control.
And race control. All concerned, in fact. You think you've executed a pit stop as is mandated by the regulations, and for whatever reason, that's not been recognised by Assetto Corsa Competizione. No doubt they will appeal that one. And in the case of Charlie Fagg, it's a little bit more straightforward. He thinks he's gone in and done the business, the game's not recognised it. We'll have a debate and we'll make a decision. For the likes of Dan Harper, he's also got that 5-second penalty that he would have served at his stop. What do you do about that one if you're race control, come and checkered flag? Add it post, finished his time. Big difficulty, and there's going to be some appealing. It's going to go on long and late into the night, he thinks, on this one.
I think the other weird thing is that Charlie Fagg finds himself in 3rd position now, ahead of Arjan Guven and ahead of Jordan Pepper. So that is a position where he definitely wasn't pre-pit stops, and so I'm going to assume that something wasn't followed correctly in the pit stop to find himself in that position. Race control need to kind of be on that quite quickly, because if he compromises Guven and Pepper here, then he's going to really affect what is going to happen out on the racetrack. Mitchell leads Heinrich, so it's Lamborghini ahead of Porsche as it was. Guven and Pepper, I'm pretty sure that has swapped around since the pit stops. Yes, it has.
Yeah, I think it has. I think the Lamborghini's dropped behind Guven now in a 5th position. We're looking at Charlie Fagg. 3rd place, started in 9th, did Charlie Fagg, so all the way up onto the bottom step of the podium. Of course, he's in the gold category. The cars behind him are in the pro class, so Guven will be very, very keen to put a car between himself and Jordan Pepper. Jordan Pepper will be very, very keen to do something about that position loss as these fight for 3rd overall in class and 3rd overall in this race. 10-second time penalty has been awarded to car number 90 for causing a collision. So a time penalty at this stage, of course.
And that's Nesov.
Pit stops have been served. That's going to be added to the time at the end of the race. And Alexei Nesov's race is going very, very wrong, very quickly back.
10 seconds actually does not change his position on track, would you believe, in that class. It would drop him down to just ahead of Diamato. So he would still hold on to 2nd in class. But certainly this is not the starring performance that we saw last time out from Alexei Nesov, who really controlled the race. And, you know, once you're in the head of the field, as we've seen from our front 4, you're out of the trouble, you're out of the battling, you can drive your own race. As soon as you're in the mid-pack, there are so many opportunities for difficulty. Williams blasts past Nicholas Nielsen. Nielsen's going to hand another position to Kobe Powell's in a few moments' time. And Wilson, not just up to 3rd in class, but really catching Mario Zug for 2nd in class. This has been an amazing recovery drive for the WRT driver.
Yeah, really, really nice for Callum Williams. Last time around a 1:55.920, which is one of the fastest drivers in the field at this moment in time. So Williams not suffering too much damage from that early incident that we saw a little earlier on. The recovery drive continues. Alexei Nesov, of course, is next up the road, but carrying that 10-second time penalty. Mario Zug is going to be looking over his shoulder very quickly indeed. 20 minutes still to go. At this pace, it's only going to be a few laps, and Williams and Nessov are going to be as one.
My dad always told me never to look over your shoulder. Always focus on the car in front, never focus on the car behind.
And never physically look over your shoulder either, because that will lead to an accident.
You do literally turn and find yourself in a barrier very, very quickly.
So Jordan Pepper for Iron Lynx, the number 63 machine that we're looking at now, just ahead of us is Guven in the Porsche. So these are fighting now for 4th and 5th position. Charlie Fagg, as we've already spoke about, with the dramas in the pit stop, is a few yards further up in the McLaren in 3rd place. But Pepper, he's got pace. We know he's 4th on the grid in qualification, just 0.2 of a second away from the pole position. This has all been down, Ben, to pit stops, and the execution not quite as strong for Jordan Pepper. It's costing 2 positions.
So it looks like Niklas Nielsen and Cesar Gazou got into each other at one point, because there's a penalty that's been handed over to Niklas Nielsen that just came up on the screen. It actually hasn't come up on the left-hand side as yet, but another penalty. And let's not forget that the Zug-Williams battle is actually for the championship lead as well. Whoa, that's very late from Jordan Pepper. Nearly got into the back of Ayhan Guven there. Just about missed. But that was very, very close. Here's Enemateki on his recovery drive. Got Christopher Mies ahead of him. Mies in the second of the Santalok Audis. The other one is for Erwin Bastard. Crestani has now retired out the race. Regal never started in the Aston Martin, which was a bit of a shame. Ateki looks to the inside, and it's a great opportunity to overtake here. You don't need to go ahead, you just need to claim the apex. And Ateki goes ahead anyway and claims the apex too. And BDS move up 1 position, but it's not a position in class.
Yeah, good driving there from Adam Ateki. Nice overtake, nice and clean, nice and cautious on the brakes. Got the deal done very well indeed. That moves him into 15th position, and top 15 of course Adam Ateki in the gold category, running 3rd in class at this moment in time. The class that's led by Charlie Fagg, Mario Zug 10th overall, 2nd in gold. Callum Williams on the recovery drive is 12th overall, but 3rd in category. And then this man Adam Ateki 4th, just ahead of Nicola Bart in the gold classification.
17 minutes remaining. I think we need to start cheering up the crowd inside the arena. They're the quietest crowd we've ever had this year. Maybe it's because it's soggy outside, but we've had some great racing, some respectful racing between everyone on track, and everyone's sitting very politely
After the first couple of laps.
Yeah, let's rev them up as we get to the end of this 1 hour encounter. Callum Williams now on the tail of Alexei Nessov. Nessov with that 10-second penalty, so would be unwise to fight this one. This should be an easy pass for Callum Williams. It's the next car that really matters for the BMW driver. He pulls to the right-hand side. That's the outside of the first part of the chicane, but Nessov backs out of it very sensibly. And there's a lot of sensible driving going on today. Maybe that's why the audience isn't quite so revved up, because everyone's being, after you, sir. Please, sir, come through.
Everyone's doing the mental maths in the audience, trying to work out if this is indeed a championship victory for Lauren Heinrich. Of course, he's running 2nd overall, only 3.3 away, so closing the gap to Sandy Mitchell at the front on the field. But the big thing is, they're fighting the number 21 machine for their title. And where is the 21?
No, 32 is
32, sorry.
Yeah.
Sheldon van der Linde, 7th overall. So I'm going to throw that off to our race director to do the mental maths for me. But I think if things stand as they are, Ben, Lauren Heinrich's going to take this championship.
Yeah, at the moment he'll take 4 points from that 2nd position in class. And Sheldon van der Linde might take some points depending on what Fagg and Harper have in terms of their situation. I think, yeah, I'm hearing in my ear that the maths has been done by the brighter and more intelligent in the gallery, and it's not possible.
But with 15 minutes and 37 seconds left on the clock, there's still plenty of potential for things to go a little bit sideways for many of these drivers. Callum Williams, of course, has had his fair share of drama at the start of the race. He's in 11th position, but now he's cleared Alexei Nessov. Next man up the road, 2.6 seconds away, is Mario Zhu, is 4nd in gold. So that is game on in the last 15 minutes of this race. Callum Williams has given everything he's got in that BMW. Look at the drivers concentrated in the Fanatec Arena. It's warm in here. 24 professional GT drivers racing in a semi-foreign environment of a racing simulation, but racing for points in their real World Championship. And you can see just by the faces on their screens, Ben, that is 24 people concentrating very hard indeed in what is not a natural environment for them.
Becoming more and more natural for those that have experienced this over now 3 years. We're in the penultimate round of Season 3 of the Fanatec Arena, with just one round remaining in this 2023 season. There's Charlie Fagg going into the pits, and I think actually behind Charlie is a BMW so that would be Dan Harper. There's Fagg, yes, Dan Harper also in the pits behind. So what happened in the pit stop?
Oh, the car's not raised on its jack, which suggests that the pit stop's not been recognised, which I'm only going to guess here, Ben, means he's stopped outside of the window that the game defines as being the area that you need to stop the car.
Or the box.
The box,
in other words.
Or he's not set it to put the 1 litre of fuel in. So it stopped, the mechanics have run to it, gone, nope, nothing to do, on your way.
Yeah.
That's not serving the requirement.
And the requirement is to have 1 litre of fuel added to the car.
That would be my guess from distance on this one. As you say, here is Dan Harper in the BMW. Let's have a look, see if exactly the same things happen.
He's come in the same time as Nesov, so he came in a couple of laps before the end of the window. So it's not a window situation. We have had this issue with WRT before. This is obviously the Rover racing machine. I can't remember if we had an issue with them as well. He stops, a little bit of a jolt forward.
Yeah, so that's exactly what's happened. They've not put the mandated litre of fuel in. That's why both cars have jumped up the order as well. They were stationary for a shorter period of time than the other drivers because no work was undertaken. So it is hard in sim. You've got to navigate your way through the menus when you call a pit stop. You've got to put the 1 litre on with a D-pad on the steering wheel. The wise of us set a pit strategy before the race, so that's all mandated, all done for you. But I reckon that's pretty much what's happened, and that is, sadly, Ben, very much driver error.
And what it has done is put Dan Harper 8 seconds to the good of Sheldon van der Linde. Remember, van der Linde, Drouet and Harper, before the pit stop strategy, were all on the same bit of circuit, and the gaps are now quite large between the three of them. Harper, frustratingly, has a BMW that's very, very strong underneath him, a little bit deep into the first part. It allows him to cut back and make a nice, tidy S-bend through the second part of the Mercedes Arena. I'm going to just call it that because that's what it used to be when I was a young boy. It was a long time ago.
We're a lad.
When I were a boy. Jordan Pepper sitting there in 5th position, fading from the back of Jan Guven. And actually interesting to see that Fagg, 3rd position and totally out of position, is still on a good pace. He's not really holding Guven up too much here.
Yeah, absolutely. No, last time around, Charlie Fagg, 1 minute 55.992. Guven behind a 55.655. So they're comparable in pace. How much quicker Guven could go without a car in front of them and the dirty air that causes, the off-putting nature of having a vehicle in front of you, that's anyone's guess. But at this moment in time, Charlie Fagg, he's holding his own. The problem is, he's in 3rd position through means not legitimate compared to the regulations.
Let's see. We haven't had anything official, and certainly race control haven't deemed it incorrect. We've had this situation across this year. Weirdly, in the first 2 years, we had one problem, I think, but other than that, this year particularly, we've had more and more issues with this pit stop either being recognised or not. And Fagg sits there well ahead of his rivals. Marius Zug still holds on to 2nd in class, Williams in 3rd, then Eteki and Nicolas Bart. They are our gold category drivers. Dan Harper looks to the outside of Jordan Pepper. No need to fight this one, although I suppose it is 4-class position. So Jordan Pepper just positioning his car correctly just to make sure that Harper can't claim the apex. And that is for 4th in class.
One thing I will say with Dan Harper, when we saw that replay, Ben, he stopped and then was on his way straight away, so he definitely did not serve the 5-second penalty,
didn't, no.
which suggests something definitely went wrong during that pit.
But you have to select that as well, right? You can choose not to do the drive-through penalty.
I wouldn't know, I never get them. No, you're absolutely right. So there's definitely something wrong. And the thing with Dan Harper is, when you've got that penalty hanging over you and the question mark over the pit stop, you do not want to be rubbing paint with other cars, because theoretically you're in an artificial position and the stewards will look very negatively on that indeed if you involve yourself in somebody else's drama and cause an accident before the checkered flag waves.
watching Jordan Pepper's facial expressions here. Some drivers are pretty deadpan, not Jordan Pepper, huffing and puffing as he goes down through the first part of the lap. Face shining with sweat. It's not particularly warm in the Fanatec Arena, not like we've had in other rounds and races, but it's still hard work. These drivers are not just sitting there doing nothing. I have to say, sim racing is a physical activity. And here is the battle for second in class. The lead in the championship in gold between Marius Zug and Callan Williams. Williams was facing the wrong direction, was dead last at the start of the race, and he has really soldiered back up the field. Clean passing half the field, and now he finds himself potentially in second position. He's got to get past that Marius Zug Mercedes, and it is wagging its tail like a dog.
Yeah, this is vital for the gold category. These two teams came into this race level on points. Whoever finishes in front of the other will take the championship lead coming in to the final round of Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Callan Williams has had a nightmarish start to this race, but has kept his head down, has stayed in the zone, has overcome any dramas on that BMW, and this has been a drive for the ages for Callan Williams. The big question is now, can he get the deal done and find a way past Marius Zug?
Great drive off the last corner. Zug goes defensive to the inside. Here he comes, late, hard on the brakes, and the Mercedes holds the inside, holds that apex, does not allow the BMW for a cutback, and so Callan Williams is just going to have to follow for the moment. Careful through this left-hander, do not squeeze that throttle too hard, the rear end will step out on you. Nice and tidy through this left, because actually the most important part of all of these corners is his right-hander. He doesn't get a swapper on, drives out of the corner. Again, pressing a button with his thumb there. I'm not entirely sure what he is doing. Oh, and Jordan Pepper loses the position to Dan Harper, and Dan Harper instantly gives it back. So I think there was a little bit of naughtiness between the two of them. And Jordan Pepper says thank you very much. I saw that in my eye line because Jordan is sitting just beside us in the commentary box here, and he had a proper swapper on.
Yeah, there's been a little bit of needle these last couple of laps between these two drivers. Dan Harper needs to calm it down a little bit coming in to the final sunsetting of this race. Jordan Pepper is driving well in the Lamborghini, has no time penalties against his name. Of course, Harper has that 5 seconds that he needs to serve at some stage. Look at the live time as well. Nicholas Nielsen has dropped a position to Alexei Nesov, so he's down in 13th place. But this is a good squabble that's going on. The BMW is clearly faster, but Harper, he needs to find a way past cleanly, and Ben, he needs to do it quickly. We've only got 7.5 minutes just under left on that clock.
What he doesn't want is the gap behind to get any smaller either, because Jordan Pepper can leave Dan Harper to go past, but there's a gap of 5 seconds. Here's what happened down at the hairpin, part of the rallycross track when they've hosted the World Rallycross here. That's a weird one. Actually, Jordan's quite slow at the apex there. He was being very careful, and Dan almost just got on the throttle when Jordan didn't.
Yeah, I think Harper was doing quote-unquote the normal line as Guven finds a way past now. So Charlie Feig all the way up in third position, loses that place to the Dynamic GT Huber Racing Porsche, so Guven will be relieved to get that gold category car out of the way, and he can concentrate on just making sure he's comfortable in gap to the cars behind.
And he will be with Fag behind him, but there's no chance of catching his teammate or his Porsche teammate Lauren Heinrich, because there's 15 seconds between the two of them. Let's go back to our Gold Cup second position, our championship lead between Zug and Williams. We had that great shot over the shoulder of Callan Williams a little bit earlier on, showing us what he was seeing. All of the different bits of information he can use, more information almost than you get in the real world car, to understand what that car is doing. And Callan Williams in the BMW looking so strong. We've got 6 minutes on the clock. This is an overtaking opportunity, but also the real kind of the racing line is diagonally across the circuit to claim an early apex there, because it's so cambered, and then you use that camber to sort of slingshot, and it takes away an overtaking opportunity because of the way that corner is profiled. And we see that with a couple of the corners where you're able to turn in early because of the way that the circuit not necessarily is designed, but the way that it's cambered.
Yeah, the body language of this WRT car now. Callan Williams suggests that he's more than hungry to try and find a way past. Looks to the outside, tries to go back to the inside. A little kiss to the back of Marius Zug's Mercedes. That unsettles Zug, that compromises him in the straight line, but there's absolutely no racetrack for Callan Williams to find a way past. He's got the outside, come into the chicane. You don't want to be on the outside. on the brakes nice and early, drops back behind, tries to get the run through the chicane, bit too greedy on the curbs though, Ben. That's another opportunity gone begging, and we are running out of chances for Callum Williams to take this place away.
What it does do is place pressure on Marius Zug. Marius Zug will be feeling the heat. He'll understand what's going on. A little shake of the head from Callum Williams. I'm not sure what he's shaking his head at, but Paul Jeffrey analysing all the data on the screen. What can you see?
I'm seeing track limits. I think that says 2. And you're only allowed 3, so Callum Williams has got to have that in the back of his mind as well. You don't want to be going outside of track limits because the game will penalise you. So he's got to be ultra neat and precise, not only on the attack, but also on the pass itself. And just to make things a little bit more difficult, Alexei Nesov decides, you boys are having a bit of fun, and we join in as well. And it's a 3-way fight for position.
Nesov with a 15-second penalty to his name, remember, and so he's not really going to benefit too much from getting involved in this fight. Also not in the same category. Charlie Fagg looks like he might fancy a chance of getting back at Ayachan Kuvan here. Wouldn't be particularly wise, and there's not many opportunities to do so, but this is impressive from Charlie Fagg. Ayachan Kuvan I rate as one of the very best sim racers in the world, let alone real world drivers. And he is being kept honest by Charlie Fagg in a McLaren, which usually isn't a car to have in ACC.
Yeah, it really is impressive. Fagg's 4th in the overall standings for the gold category as well. We're not really used to seeing him at the absolute sharp end of the grid. Is Callum Williams now down the inside. He's not going to overlap. Be very, very careful, guys. Running side by side, just about give each other racing room. But Ben, that ain't going to get no closer without exchanging of wing mirrors.
That was super, super respectful between Marius Zug and Callum Williams. Zug gave him just enough space. The BMW's a big car, and he just gave him enough of a nose. Williams wants to go to the left, but he has to go to the right. He's later on the brakes. Can he go all the way around the outside? Absolutely not. Whoa, big slide from Marius Zug. Now here's the opportunity. Down the inside, there's contact between the two of them. Where is Zug now? No, there's still some. Comes back on the circuit, spins around. Nesov is trying to get involved there. And what a fight between the two of them. But Williams now takes the position with 2.5 minutes remaining. That got the crowd excited.
Yeah, that was a good bit of drama. Sometimes, though, Marius Zug needs to add to his arm rate to know when to give up. That was trying to hold on too long. Almost an airplane-sized accident between the three of them. But just about everybody gets through that one. Marius Zug drops all the way down the running order, 16th at this moment in time, and Alexei Nesov didn't know which way to look. Do I get involved? Do I back out? How does it work?
Fagg's also off. We're seeing Fagg dropping down the timing screens as well. So a problem for the McLaren, maybe contact between himself and Ayachan Kuvan. We've only got 2.5 minutes remaining, and it's really hotting up here. Here's Jordan Pepper, who is now behind Dan Harper. That's interesting.
So there's been some kind of exchange of opinions at the front of the field. Charlie Fagg being the bigger of the losers there, down in 7th position. Dan Harper in that severely damaged BMW up ahead of Jordan Pepper. Pepper's car looks relatively clean, so not quite sure exactly what's happened. But with 2 minutes left on the clock, this needs to shuffle itself out very, very quickly indeed. But Sandy Mitchell doesn't care. This is going to be a drive to the checkered flag. This should be a pretty easy victory for the K-Pax Racing man.
Not long for Mr. Replay Man to get out a couple of replays to see what happened over the last couple of laps. So Sandy Mitchell, 5.6 to the good at Lauren Heinrich. He's been a class of the field, hasn't he? Pole position. We saw him on the pre-show and talking to Giovanni De Salvo about how the two of them work together. Alexei Nesov under pressure here from Kobe Powles. Powles to the outside. He's in the pro category, Powles, so it would be wise just to give it up. And yeah, that was a bit brave to try and go around the outside, but he's a good rally crosser, is Kobe Powles. So he keeps the car facing the right direction, gets dive bombed by Adam Ateki, I think. And here's the replay. Oh, it was Dan Harper that spun him around.
Yeah, Harper into the back of the McLaren. There's nothing you can do if you're the McLaren in that scenario. Once the rear's lost traction, the car's on its way to a half pirouette. All you've got to do is drop it down into first gear and try to get away again. But that's quite a bit of time for Charlie Fagg to have lost. We've dropped all the way to 7th. Sheldon van der Linde made his way past as well that we didn't see in that replay. So not quite sure what happened there, but a big, big loss for Charlie Fagg in that incident.
Traffic here for Sandy Mitchell to deal with, though. Erwin Bastard, 21st position. And hopefully Erwin will be nice and kind to Sandy Mitchell. Yeah, kinda. Yeah, Sandy gets through cleanly now. This could be the last lap. We've only got 14 seconds remaining on the clock. It's going to be tight, I think. but maybe the checkered flag will fall for Sandy Mitchell. Lights to flag, and I would say that may be the first Lamborghini to take victory, or first Lamborghini victory that we've seen in the Fanatec Arena over the last couple of years. It's their European World Final on Friday, find a new star in the sim racing series, but Sandy Mitchell is the star tonight. He takes victory. Lauren Heinrich over the line in second position to extend his championship lead, but I'm not sure whether he will win the championship tonight, and it's going to be Ayachan Guven on the podium. This also might be the first all-pro podium that we have had. Guven it is in third position for Porsche for Dynamic Motorsport, and Dan Harper in fifth, with Jordan Pepper in sixth, Van der Linde in seventh. That penalty will be applied to Dan Harper, which will shuffle him down the order and give more points to his teammate Sheldon Van der Linde as well. And the rest of the top 10 come over the line.
Yeah, a bit of drama to the checkered flag, a good race, small concern that we're looking at Callum Williams now. That was a star drive from Callum Williams to cross the line in 10th position, 9th position in fact, after the penalties have been applied. So good drive from Callum Williams. Alexei Nesov crosses over in 10th place. Adam Ateke that we're looking at there, 11th, 12th, Kobe Powell's that come to you just behind. Nicholas Nielsen, a quiet race, crosses the line for AF Course in 13th position. Plenty of drama on track, and Ben, you've got to go find yourself a racing driver to interview on victory.
Luckily, he's nice and close beside us. I'm going to go and have a quick word with Sandy Mitchell. I was supposed to do this whilst you weren't watching. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you very much, Ben. So Ben's going to go and have a quick word with our winner, Sandy Mitchell, and this has obviously been the Fanatec Esports GT Pro Series, the penultimate race of the season. We're racing again at Barcelona, where the championship will be decided in the pro category. Lauren Heinrich had the opportunity to go away and take that championship today. Circumstances conspired against him, finishing second in the race overall, and just that race continues alive into the final round. Sheldon Van der Linde crossing the line in fifth position. We've still got an action in gold and silver categories as well. Once all the penalties and all the appeals and all the good stuff that has to be done has been undertaken, we'll be able to finalise those results and those championship standings. Here are the finishing positions. Sandy Mitchell from Lauren Heinrich, Guven in third position just ahead of Jordan Pepper, Sheldon Van der Linde in fifth place, Thomas Drouet is sixth, Cesar Gazou seventh place ahead of Callum Williams, eventually crosses the line in eighth position after a few of the time penalties have been taken into account. Adam Ateke in ninth. Kobe Powell's on debut for ComTU Racing finishes in 10th position just ahead of Christopher Mees. And as you can see, the Fanatec Arena behind me, drivers are receiving celebrations from their friends, family and team members, and they're fighting for points towards their real life GT World Challenge championship position as well. So it means a lot for these drivers. They put in a lot of work, a lot of training. They work with their real life counterparts as well. But now I'm going to throw over to Ben in a few moments time. So from me, Paul Jeffrey, thank you very much for watching, and let's head to Ben Constanduras, who's got our race winner, to have a quick word.
Yeah, thank you very much, Paul. We've got Sandy Mitchell down here, which you look quite fresh considering you've done an hour. I've seen some of the drivers walking out with sweat. It's been a bit of a show for you today. Lights to flag.
Yeah, it was. In the end, it looked quite straightforward, but yeah, I guess a lot of the hard work was done this afternoon with qualifying on pole. I mean, it's been so tight in the qualifying sessions. I think there was 2 cars behind me, less than a tenth behind. So, you know, 1/10 in qualifying, and it can be the difference between having a good race and not, because it looked like there was a bit of carnage behind me at turn 1. So, yeah, I knew if I could get through turn 1 cleanly, we had some pretty good speed. The car behind in the Porsche was fast on the first few laps, but then I think our tyre deg was slightly better and we were able to pull away after that.
I mean, knowing that Lauren Heinrich and Ayachan Guven were on your tail, guys that have made names for themselves in the sim racing world, what makes the difference today to allow you and the Lamborghini to get the win?
Yeah, it's, I've raced these guys before on iRacing, and normally I can't touch them, so I think they're not so familiar with the ACC platform, which is helping me a little bit. And yeah, I think the setup from the Lamborghini Esports guys at Jean Alesi was great. You could see through the race our pace was just so strong all the way through, and I think that made a really good difference today. I think maybe they had a little bit of ballast behind as well, which probably wasn't helping them, whereas yeah, I was able to just get my head down and focus on front.
Awesome, enjoy the podium.
Thank you.
Let's go over to the podium then and get our podium for the top 3 overall underway. Okay. Let's get our podium underway for the top 3 overall here in the Fanatec Arena this Friday evening for the penultimate round of this year's championship at the Nürburgring. And in 3rd position for Dynamic GT Uber Racing, it's Aychang Guben. He gets his Pirelli winner's hat. And also in a Porsche this evening for Rutronic Racing, leading and extending his lead in the championship, Lauren Heinrich for Rutronic. Now, Lauren looks like he's done some work. He receives a cap from Max Rattel. And our winner, you just heard from him a few moments ago for K-Pax Racing Lamborghini, it's Sandy Mitchell. And now please welcome to the podium Stefan Rattel, the founder of the SRO Motorsports Group, who presents the €5,000 check and trophy to Aychang Guben. Lauren Heinrich picks up €7,500 and the 2nd position trophy. And it is €10,000 to Sandy Mitchell, your winner tonight. Thank you very much to Stefan Rattel for joining us this evening, and for everybody in this Fanatec Arena taking shelter on a cold and wet Friday evening. There is your podium, and it's been a great pleasure to have you along with us for the ride. I hope you've enjoyed our racing action. We have another race for you at 5:30 local time tomorrow evening, where the sim drivers will be aboard our rigs in the Fanatec Arena. And then there's also more racing from Lamborghini on Sunday from the Fanatec Arena, their European finals. So loads of sim racing, and of course a 3-hour race starting at 3 o'clock local time in the real Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit for the penultimate round of this year's European Endurance Cup. You can watch the last round of this from Barcelona at the end of September. And until then, thanks for watching and good night.